Hello, I'm Kevin Yanik with Quarry Magazine. Today we've got with us Anthony Konya, Vice President of Precision Blasting Services. Anthony, great to see you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Kevin. I'm excited to be here.
Well, you just sent over your next article for Quarry Magazine. We're working on our April edition right now, and by the time our viewers here are watching you and I here, they should have access to your latest content on the most costly mistakes in blasting. There are four of those, Anthony. So maybe you can give a little preview of your article here in our April edition for our digital viewers today.
Yeah, and I think this is one of my favorite articles I've had a chance to write for you guys. Whenever we're working with a mine site, there's often some major sort of errors or mistakes that we find that really cost a tremendous amount of money. And they do that because they both increase the cost of drilling and blasting while also decreasing the performance. And so, for example, a mine will end up spending more money because they're making this mistake per ton of rock blasted, and they get worse fragmentation because of this mistake. And so it's that double-edged sword there that really is the reason that we mark these as the highest cost mistakes. What they are in basic order is, first off, using a powder factor design approach that ends up artificially setting a certain amount of explosives. And if you read the article, you'll see why I say that the only guarantee you have by increasing powder factor is that you're going to increase your drill and blast costs. You do not necessarily increase the performance. The second part there is normally the lack of KPIs, or key performance indicators. And it's not just the lack of having measurable systems set up that we're monitoring the blasting with, but also the lack of normal, what we call reference classes. And what that means is, what is an actual appropriate range that we should expect on a site for this key performance indicator? Because what most sites do is they start tracking these key performance indicators. They never really change their blasting approach much on that long-term strategy basis that we always talk about. And what they do is they end up getting a smooth, pretty consistent KPI across the board. And so they end up stopping tracking it because it just becomes data. And what we want to use is actually use those KPIs and see how they interrelate to things and establish these classes of high and low levels, what's good, what's okay, and what's bad performance. The third topic there is a lot of sites are completely ignoring stiffness ratio. Now, stiffness ratio is a relatively new term. And what I mean by that is it was developed in the 1850s, not in the 1600s like most of our other blasting variables. And this is a very simple concept. It's just the bench height and the burden. And so we take a ratio of that bench height to the burden. And essentially, we want to be above a stiffness ratio of 3.5 to 4. Somewhere in that range gives us the lowest cost and the best performance out of all other stiffness ratio ranges. And so the big place that this becomes a problem is when mines are constantly trying to go to a larger diameter hole, because it may reduce some of those drill and blast costs originally when we're using a poor design technique. When we take into account that stiffness ratio, the economic picture changes completely. The fourth point there then is drill deviation. This is a big problem we see at a lot of mine sites. There's too much down pressure on the drill. Something's going on. Maybe there's a geologic anomaly, but their drill holes are wandering all over the place and it's causing poor performance. And we either need to A, correct that drill deviation, or B, we need to design the blast that can account for some of the deviation in the process already.
What's the four most costly mistakes in blasting? It's presented by Anthony Konya. Look forward to your April 2021 print edition or on pitandquarry.com right now. Anthony, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you.